Okay, everybody. It looks like everybody's settling in. So again, welcome. We thank you for your time to hear more about the SmartOffice AssetMap integration. We really appreciate your time. And everybody here from both teams hopes that you're all doing well, safe, and happy in these unusual and somewhat trying times. Again, my name is Giles. I'll be sharing moderation with Allison from AssetMap today. Uh, my colleagues from AssetMap are Allison Sesko and Adam Holt. From SmartOffice, we have Brian Eschelbrenner and Chad Snyder. Those folks will be doing the actual presentation. I'll just be looking pretty today. So some housekeeping before we jump into the content, though. First, everybody out in Radio Land is muted so that we get a better quality presentation. I know we've all been in those presentations where people's voicemail goes off and stuff, so we'll be avoiding that. We are recording today's presentation, and I will be sending you a link to the recording hopefully tomorrow. But as you're muted, we do want to hear from you. If you have questions for the QA session, please put them into the QA panel, and we will feed them to our presenters who will be able to answer them. If we don't get to everyone's questions, if it's too involved or we just get too many, we promise we'll get back to you the next day or so via email or phone or whatever. So for today, our action plan is this. We're going to hear from Adam Holt first. He's going to talk about AssetMap on a high level. We're going to flip over to Chad Snyder then. We will talk about SmartOffice, and then over to Brian Eschelbrenner, who will then talk about the integration itself. He'll do a live demo of it. So all that being said, welcome again, and take it away, Adam, please.
Great. Thank you, Giles, and of course, thank you everybody for taking the time to spend the next, we'll call it 50 minutes to an hour with us. This is going to be exciting because we've been talking to SmartOffice and the team at EBIX for some time about what can we do that's really impactful and exciting for you in the financial advice delivery space. And AssetMap, as many of you know, has come literally from the field, a necessity-driven innovation that's focused on how do we communicate with clients more effectively. So I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes or so kind of just acclimating everybody on what is AssetMap these days, how has it evolved, and what you should understand is that we credibly think about how is advice delivery going to look in the future, and I think we're now seeing this more than ever because we've even in the firm that I was part of for 22 years, we did 70% of our meetings remotely for the last 10 years, and we designed this process really to work with remote delivered advice, or the fact that we've all got this attention span challenge that nobody can focus on a 80-page report, let alone a 2-hour meeting where you're showing 100 slides. That just does not work. And so the critical part about what we're doing in AssetMap is to try to enable the advisors to have a higher level conversation about what's going on in the entire household. So ultimately, AssetMap is really a scalable guidance platform. What does that mean? There's not really a typical category I think of for an engagement platform, but I think you'll get it. The real thing to remember here is that all of us lead with advice. The key today is to not lose our identity as all this technology starts looking the same. Everybody's on Zoom, everybody's on WebEx, showing the same charts and graphs. The key is how do you differentiate yourself when you've got only a single screen in front of you that looks like everybody else's screen. And what we really focus on a lot is the data collection and then giving back that data to the client in a way that's revealing, ultimately focusing on suitability and advice. As a result of that, we tend to uncover a lot of opportunities for our advisors to fix certain conditions. And as a result, that means that they're ultimately making more production and retention of their clients, which we now have cataloged over multiple companies, thousands of advisors using this process. And they're actually all reporting increases in sales on the life, AUM, and annuity side. So if that's part of your process, you want to be critically aware of what we're doing there and why the SmartOffice integration really accelerates that potential. At the end of the day, this is working, as you'll see, because customers really appreciate it. And what they don't tend to appreciate is the fact that most of us as advisors tend to be technically minded, and we tend to approach this somewhat humorously with a lot of data and analytics and charts and graphs and show people how smart we are to ultimately tell them that they're going to be okay or they're not. And if you've ever created an executive summary or basically a Word document that compresses your advice, then you'll know what I'm talking about. Now, for me, I actually came from the, we'll call it the architecture background and design. So I drew pictures. And so one of the things that I realized a long time ago is that many of the customers that we deal with, they don't really have a lot of acumen around this. And then typically they've accumulated some assets in different places, typically their retirement accounts. They have some dust on it, so they have to blow off the dust there to a degree. Someone sold them life insurance a bunch of years ago. They haven't looked at it. They have to find the policy. Maybe they think they're sophisticated because they do online banking. But the reality is that most of the real kind of issues with financial planning is that there are other people that are dependent upon a decision maker. And typically we find consumers get stuck. But when an advisor comes into this picture, the first requirement is that they take all this information and actually organize it in a way that not just the advisor can understand it, but also the consumer in a way that they can actually have an open conversation in a transparent environment about what's going on in their life. So if we can create a scalable experience here that has all the high-level facts, we can now apply our advisor intelligence in real time, and that's effectively what AssetMap does. It then becomes a deliverable that the customer covets because it becomes a framework for conversation and whether we need to move things around, fix, or fill it. So for years, we basically created these visualizations for any kind of household. You can imagine the data we're looking at. It's typically found in the CRM. It's the household information, but it would deal with traditional households as well as modern households, same-sex families, single households with kids, business owners, trusts, charities can handle all of this because there are decisions that need to be made, especially with an advisor's help, around all of these structures that probably need some attention. We need to reveal that so that we can focus on it. So at the end of the day, AssetMap, as you'll see, really focuses on really three things predominantly. Number one is how do we organize a household or a family or a business in a visual way? That's the first part of it. Number two, are we funded towards our major goals? Because we have built-in funding calculators that can, in your second page, tell you how funded you are for major goals. These are the typical ones, like retirement, education funding, life insurance, long-term care, disability, the ones that typically advisors deal with. And then number three, probably the most important long-term is how do you deal with your practice management and how in conjunction with SmartOffice do you take the data and create insights into your entire book of business, not only for what you can do today, but what you can do in the succession plan long-term, if that is either to grow or scale out your firm or maybe even exit it. And you need to have an understanding of the entire book of business so that you can monetize that appropriately from the business end. A lot of people ask, well, how do you actually interact with AssetMap? And there's really three predominant ways that we might get into today. One is that clearly it's an interaction platform, which means it's designed to be working with clients in several different modalities. We tend to think of this as digital, face-to-face, and of course remote these days, so that you can build an AssetMap with a client, kind of like you're working on a Lego project. You build it together and there's a different level of ownership. The second way is we have enabled the ability to go direct to consumer, so that if you need to actually engage individual consumers or prospects or thousands at a time, you can offer them the ability to create a map for themselves. And then you get, as an advisor, the insight into their financial x-ray. And then, of course, we do integrate. You can see several of our partners here, and we're really excited to have SmartOffice on this list. It's probably one of our highest requested platforms. At the end of the day, before I going to hand the reins over, this has been interesting to see what the impact has been. A financial engagement platform that complements CRM and financial planning and portfolio management really has shown to have significant increases in productivity in the form of new AUM, assets, annuities, as well as insurance. So we have really interesting reported gains, and these numbers actually to scale for our largest enterprises. Very high advisor retention for this process because ultimately advisors are making more revenue, which is exciting to see even for those that are actually bringing AssetMap out to their newest advisors, the growing, developing ones. And ultimately, because it works, people use it. And so I think today, if you look at adoption of tools, that's the new innovation. It's got to be easy to use, or else we all know we're not going to use it. And of course, the data insights can be big. So setting ourselves up for having really good data insight and being able to mine our book of business is really critical today. If we're going to collect that information, we need to be also able to report it and get it out to the people who need to see that. With that, I'm going to actually pre-frame Brian's section here by giving you an idea of what does an asset map actually look like, because when you understand this, you'll understand how it critically needs to talk to SmartOffice. What you're looking at right now actually is an asset map of a household. And you can see that we've cataloged all kinds of people in this household. We have kids in this situation. We have even family members, typical that you would see in a household. There's other financial dependencies, business partners, companies. In this case, a special needs trust because Joe is a special needs situation. We even have a charity in this family. We're cataloging 4 different components besides the household members in an asset map. We include the income sources, in this case for both parties. You can see they're both current income sources as well as passive income sources. Future income sources are listed here. We can handle virtually any kind of financial instrument. Assets that are controlled by, in this case, Tim, they would be qualified, non-qualified, annuity, cash value. Again, anything you can think of. Same thing on Christine's side, and of course, then their joint assets, liabilities. Hopefully that makes sense to you. And then we also have insurance policies. What insurances? Right now, we're cataloging life, disability, long-term care. And then we also have property and casualty that's actually dark in demo right now, or beta rather. So that'll be coming out relatively soon. It's really kind of important that you understand that we're cataloging all of these level of instruments so that we can have an honest conversation with those clients. Okay, with that being said, Brian or Chad, why don't I hand the reins over to you and you can take us through SmartOffice. Do I have to hand the reins over to you?
I think Chad should be able to grab it.
Okay.
Oh, no, he can't. Giles, please pass presenter to Chad.
All right. Weird little crying out loud. Sorry, everybody.
That's okay. I'll make a couple of clicks on the screen and make it interesting.
No, I just did it. I just had part of it covered.
Great.
I was like, here we go. Sorry, everyone. Yay.
All right, we see it.
And please unmute Chad.
Good Lord. Okay, Chad.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks, Adam, there. I'm glad you kind of teed some things off for me there. Data was something I wanted to talk about, at least briefly, as well. So thanks, everybody, for joining today. My name is Chad. I'm an account executive here at EBIX. And I'm just going to do kind of a quick PowerPoint here, a few slides, and then just dive into a few basic or key components of SmartOffice, and then Brian will take over. But a while back, I had somebody, an advisor. I was at a conference or something like that, and the advisor came up to me and he said, "Hey, you know what? CRM is pretty simple for me. Just tell me who I'm supposed to call first today." And I was like, you know what? That's a pretty interesting statement right there, because it sounds really simple, but I don't think that it is as simple as it sounds. And it's really important today, though, because there's a lot of studies out there going on right now talking about what client expectations are like. And it's really not just about the fact that what your portfolio looks like for managing that clients. It's like, are you contacting those clients at the right time? Are you reaching out to them at the right time? Do they feel the love that you're supposed to be giving them? And at the end of the day, you're really kind of managing their life. Their life is in your hands, and they need to know that you have their back. And you know, kind of in the past, the way like a CRM was going to work is kind of very old school in terms of data. You have that birthday report, you have that annual review report that you go through with the client. Maybe you monitor some social media or something like that. But with a platform like SmartOffice, there's so much more that you can do and so much more that you can stay on top of. And it kind of makes me think of some of those slides inside of, or that showed the inside of AssetMap, that detail that you're trying to grab so that you really understand your clients and are able to really help them come up with the right kind of plan moving forward. You need to have that data inside of your database. And there's lots of different ways to get that data. But one thing that's nice or an advantage for SmartOffice is our parent company, EBIX, has a ton of other products out there. You can run all different kinds of quotes on life and annuity, long-term care. And not only are you running that, you're also bringing that information back into SmartOffice. You're proving that you're doing your due diligence, making sure you're doing what you need to for NYDFS, Reg BI, things like that. You can run illustrations through SmartOffice, and we have third parties that you can tie that to. You can do comparative analysis and stuff. And again, bring all that documentation back into SmartOffice, therefore proving that we've covered your requirements in terms of the kind of professional or the investment advice that you can give those clients. Annuities, our platform, our AnnuityNet platform, is white labeled by the likes of Pershing and Fidelity. And that data, again, I kind of mentioned with the quoting, you can bring that stuff in there, help you manage your NIGO score, things like that. But I don't want to get into that too much. I just wanted to demonstrate that there's a lot of data capabilities in the EBIX parent of families. What I do want to get into is just jump into a client record here real quick. And right away, you can kind of start seeing the level of detail that you're going to be able to track inside of SmartOffice. Here in the contact record, all of these tabs and sub-tabs here are all specific to Joe. Pretty much anything you need to know about Joe is here. But very simply, some things I want to point out is just right away, you can start breaking down your book of business, get those key segments out there. And anytime you see an icon like this, it gives you the ability to customize a field choice inside of SmartOffice, and then that becomes hard-coded inside of SmartOffice. But if you need, there's tons of tabs here. There's not enough time to go through all these tabs. You can kind of get a sense of what's going on here. But maybe I need to reach out to Joe's doctor, his attorney, his CPA, whomever it might be. Very easy to find that. We do a great job of organizing our data inside of SmartOffice. That central repository of all of your client communications, emails, letters, etc., all in one spot. But you know, something like with AssetMap here, you guys probably dealing with goals that your clients have. Maybe you have a unique way that you profile your clients. You can capture that inside of SmartOffice. You create tons of custom fields here, create the drop downs for those custom fields so that you can hard code that into the system and go back through and filter on those kinds of things throughout your system. In terms of additional data, quickly, you can do individual, you can do or household. So depending on how you want to look at your business, you can do it both ways. But let's kind of stay on that data element here at this point in time. We have those, because of WinFlex and those other products we have out there, we also have dozens of carrier relationships. So those carriers have the ability to feed your pending case statuses, so you get those status updates of your cases, of your new business, brought into SmartOffice automatically, so you can at any point in time see what's going on with those particular cases. We also have an integration with the DTCC, which allows to bring in your in-force policy data into SmartOffice. And not only are we going to bring that data into SmartOffice, we can keep that data updated. So if the client updates beneficiary, increases the face value, anything along those lines, that data will automatically update into SmartOffice. So you can take action on it. All these fields inside of SmartOffice are all reportable fields so that you can use this data to help you manage your book of business. We can even do this at the business level, or excuse me, at the group level. So if you're working with an employer's 401k or a group life policy or something, you can manage that in one easy, organized spot. Investments, we're going to aggregate that data into SmartOffice as well. We integrate with the custodians out there, all of the major clearing firms. If you do a bunch of annuities, we can even integrate with DST and get a data feed from DST into SmartOffice. Maybe we'll integrate with, Allbridge or Orion or something like that to bring your investment information into SmartOffice. Now, once you have all of this data into SmartOffice, obviously it's easy to work this individual here in SmartOffice. But really the engine of SmartOffice is what we call dynamic reporting. And all this data, all these fields, there's probably already in SmartOffice some kind of report that you can find everybody with qualified money, for instance. And again, we call that dynamic reporting inside of SmartOffice. So I can just come in here and search through our library, the other things I've made, the stuff we've made, And I could use any of these reports. I could go in and add new fields to the reports, change the filters. I want 90 days. I want term renewals or something like that. So you can go in and modify these. Or we could create completely brand new reports. Maybe I have a bunch of those custom fields, again, based around my client's goals. Most CRMs don't really have anything like that. So my business is a little bit unique in how I do it. I want to build that out. I'd be able to grab those custom fields and any other field that I want in SmartOffice to put those, put those fields into a report that I'm going to use. And then once I have the fields, I want to start adding my filters to everybody over the age of 50. Term policies, not life. Whatever you can think of, you can pretty much filter on that sort of information. And we grab those reports, whether you're using ours, you created your own or something. And what I like to do with them is the key reports out there, those reports that are kind of telling you who do I call first today, show up right when I log into the SmartOffice. So we have all these dashboards where you can have as many dashboards as you want, as few as you want, add new ones here. And you can throw different reports in there so I can see certain client profiles, certain segments in my book of business. My clients that need a financial plan, my clients that need life insurance, qualified money. And we go on and on with the different kinds of policies and different kinds of reports you have. They could be management reports where I'm looking to make sure somebody made all the calls that they need to. It could be like high-level revenue sort of stuff that you need. Really, almost anything that we can track inside of SmartOffice can be broken down into a report here in SmartOffice. The other thing that I do is I use SmartOffice all the time here. At EBIX, we drink the Kool-Aid here. We use our own products. I like to work my day pretty much from a list. So I take any report that I'm using, I convert that into a list. I can work it. Do I need to give Sal? Without even going into his full contact record, I can see his phone number here. I just got done giving him a call. So I tag him here, and I'm going to take a note on the fly without even leaving my dashboard right here. I get that note regarding what happened with Sal. So we make it really easy to get all of your data captured in one centralized place here. We can automatically grab your email, put them in here. This is where your notes are going to go. If you use our calendar activity tracking, which can be synchronized with Outlook or your phone's native calendar application, etc., all of that stuff, and when you mark that activity done and you take notes and stuff like that, can all be captured inside of SmartOffice. In fact, we can even take that further. I'm just going to hop into an activity. Again, this can be synchronized with Outlook, be synchronized with your phone's native iCal or Android's native application. But we're automatically including household members here, easy to assign these to other people in your office. You can even hard code what's going on inside of this. Maybe everything you do, it falls into a certain thing. Or if you want to get a little bit more advanced here, maybe you start breaking keywords down so you can go back and look at particular types of conversations that you're having with your clients. And on and on. Take time here or note the time and stuff like that. So you're also tracking what kind of time you're spending with your clients, etc. But again, you can see that I'm staying within my list here, adding activities, taking notes, reviewing notes, etc., all while just working my list here. I can even go and look at the policy data. Or if I really needed to, I could go and check out Sal's actual record here. So just tons of different ways to make sure that you're staying on top of your clients. Not much going on here with Sal here. I'm even launching our different portals. I need to run an illustration. I'm opening up a new account. I want to run a quote or something like that. Again, that synchronization with that data, bringing copies of that data back into the SmartOffice, and again, throwing that inside of the Smart Panel along with every single other thing you've been doing with that client. So you have the complete context of what's been going on with that client, and a lot of different data elements behind there as well to back up what's going on, why you made that recommendation, etc. And I could go on and on, but I think that is about as far as I'm going to go today. That gives us a nice little overview of some of the capabilities of SmartOffice. Brian will kind of take this and show how this is going to interact with AssetMap and vice versa.
All right. Thank you, Chad, and thanks for passing the ball, Giles. Let me move all of these photos around here so they're not in the way. Okay, I'm going to show a very basic workflow for how SmartOffice works with AssetMap. And like pretty much every single integration we have in SmartOffice, we usually launch the integrations from our button bar on the contact record. So I've gone ahead and gone to my SmartOffice contact screen, and I have customized the screen to be a little bit different than the out-of-the-box packaging that Chad was showing earlier. This button is in the integrations section along with all of our other integrations. We integrate with a lot of systems. You can turn those on and off at the user level. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and click this because I'm launching into it. And what we're doing here is we're basically taking a household that we've already set up in SmartOffice for a prospective couple, and we've collected a few of the individual assets that we knew about, basically two investment accounts they had with two insurance policies. And when we get to this screen, what the integration technology is doing is it's searching AssetMap to see if that household is already over there or not. So we're looking for the head of household's first and last name. We're looking at the spouse's first and last name. We're looking at the name of the household that you've given inside SmartOffice just to see if any of those things match up over there. And in this case, I'm just running through the use case of we're setting them up for the first time. We've collected data in SmartOffice, and now we want to create an asset map that we can review with that couple. So down here, I've got a new AssetMap contact button, and this center area is all empty because it didn't find any records matching over an asset map. And when I click on that, it's going to now go through looking at all of the holdings that were on the household inside SmartOffice. Like I said, two insurance policies, two investment accounts, which is what we see lined up here. And it's double checking normally to see if those holdings are over an asset map yet. In this case, brand new household, so it didn't find anything. And what I can do is one by one, I can click through these and I can say, I want to add them over to AssetMap. Now this screen is very busy and there's a lot going on because this screen is what's going to allow you to say, if I set them up in AssetMap and I set them up in SmartOffice separately, and I want to start synchronizing the data, I can go through holding by holding and figure out which record I want to overwrite the record on the other side on a case-by-case basis and add things that are missing. And if you accidentally link two things that shouldn't be linked, you can unlink it. All stuff you can do from this screen. I'm not going to get into all of that because it makes the demo rather messy. I'm just going to click on synchronize, which will take us over into AssetMap. And each one of these holdings that were in SmartOffice that were not yet in AssetMap are going to be created over there and linked up to the household. So Valerie Alvarado and Brad Alvarado, that's the couple that we've got. We've got our two insurance policies up top, one from Protective Life, one from American General, and we've got an IRA and a brokerage account over here that were linked up to Valerie. Now, let's say that we have met with the household and we're reviewing this, and we bring this up because we need to talk about, where is the income coming from for your family? What are your needs? What other assets you have? Let's say hypothetically that during that conversation, they say, oh yeah, Brad has an insurance policy through his work for an additional $50,000 with Banner. So I'm just going to add that really quickly here. So we're going to add a term life where it's Brad, the insurance carrier is Banner. The death benefit we're going to say is $50,000, and I think I'm just going to leave the rest alone. Oh, policy owner, let's make that Brad, and beneficiary, let's make that Val. We'll save those changes. Please review your submission for errors. What did I for? Oh yeah, right.
For referencing.
Yes. So I'm just putting the name of the product for right now. So we put in our Banner policy there. And let's also say that Brad's got a 401k that we hadn't really collected the information on yet. So I'm going to add an asset for him. This will be a retirement account for Brad. And we'll say it's the 401k location. Let's just say it's also at Merrill Lynch. And we'll give it about $40,000. And I'm going to leave that alone also. Okay, so now we've added these over here. Now, the way that we've got the workflow set up right now, we need to jump back to SmartOffice to pull the data back into it. So I'm just going to close this now that we've updated the asset map, and I'm going to click that same button again so we can jump through to the same screen. Now this time it's looking over an asset map again to say, hey, I'm going to look at these people's names. I'm going to look at what the household has been named and see if there's something over here. In this case, since we created it earlier, it shows up already as linked, and I can click on the household to jump through to the next screen, which is going to show all of the assets, and we're going to see, hopefully, those two new assets. Right there, we've got Brad's retirement 401k. We've got Brad's life insurance through work. So I will click one and say we want to add that to SmartOffice. Click the other one, also say we want to add it to SmartOffice. and synchronize those. We're still working on these screens. There's a lot going on, and there's a few rough edges we want to sand off to make it clear and a little easier to use. But I just want to show you how it can work together today. And we're going to start beta testing with this within the next couple of weeks. So we jump over, and nothing's really changed here. But if we look back in SmartOffice and I jump over to Brad's contact record, we can see the Merrill Lynch 401k account here, and we can see that banner term policy for $50,000 here that we added in. So I know I went through that really fast, but this is basically just kind of the basic workflow to show how you can set up new maps for households in AssetMap based off of the data you've collected in SmartOffice, and how you can use the data that you're augmenting in AssetMap as you build out that map with the couple and bring it back into SmartOffice. All right, so that's my really quick run through of that. And I think now we're going to open up for some Q&A, right?
Let me just, Brian, that was excellent. Thank you. And let me comment on this, at least from the AssetMap user base perspective. For many of us who've been in the field and have either collected a significant amount of data in either AssetMap or in SmartOffice, which tends to be the repository, there has been continued demand and requests to migrate that data from one platform to this. And this is really the first one we've seen that actually reconciles in many ways. That there might be information in one that's not in the other. Most other integration systems tend to just be, we'll call it blunt force. They just push a bunch of stuff in there and you're going to get it whether you like it or not. You don't want to reveal it. You don't want to hide it. You don't have any choices. It's the first time we've seen someone have actually made sure that you have control over what moves to which platform, because both tend to be very heavy on the reporting and the presentation layer, right? So we focus on the presentation layer at AssetMap. How you communicate that advice. SmartOffice has fantastic ability to dig deep into the data and then report on it. It's really critical that we be mindful of what data is getting into these platforms. And so now this is great. You're going to have this functionality. So really hats off to guys functionally creating this. And I'm looking forward to seeing it actually live in the field. All right. So if I can help us out here, Allison, are you seeing questions in there that we want to bubble up, or Giles that that are being asked by the community here?
Yeah, so you guys were able to, I saw Chad and Adam both answered a few questions that came in individually, which is great. I'm going to follow up with a couple of you folks who have asked some AssetMap questions that would require follow-up. So thank you for those. Someone did ask, are we going to resend the recording? Someone missed the beginning of the session, which of course, yes, we are recording and we'll send it out. Giles will confirm that. And another question that came in, and I just lost it because every time someone writes a new question, it moves down, but here we go. The question is, do you have to have both applications over to move information back and forth?
They have to be both open. I think that from our perspective, Brian, maybe you want to answer that one.
Sure. So the way you get to the screen that moves the data back and forth is by clicking on this button in SmartOffice. So you've got to log into SmartOffice to get to that button. Now, when you click, and I started with AssetMap closed, so it's not there right now. The very first time you click on this, because it doesn't know who your SmartOffice user is over on the AssetMap side, instead of getting that first screen that was searching for the households, it'll actually give you a login screen from AssetMap and you'll put in your credentials. But after that, it saves who you are on the AssetMap side, and we send a request over that lets them know that it came from our system. So you'll just be doing a single sign-on into AssetMap from then on.
Right. So no, you don't need to keep them both open. That's the answer. That you can keep SmartOffice open and just literally keep pushing to AssetMap without having been forced to log in. So if hopefully that's the answer you're looking for.
I think that might be the answer. So another question came in from Bill. Bill said, I noticed on AssetMap that the accounts and the assets and liabilities and such are color coded. For instance, when Brian added an IRA account, it came up green, but AssetMaps are coded red. And I think that would just be an issue of getting it mapped over. Brian, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, well, actually, I think Adam might be able to explain the color coding better than I will. I don't want to misrepresent it. But yeah, we're trying to code everything correctly. And I'm trying to get the screen open again so we can look at it as we're talking.
Oh, if they mean this screen, that's different. Yep.
Yeah.
I think they meant in the AssetMap screen, like the insurance assets or holdings are blue and your investment accounts are green. There we go.
Yeah.
I don't know what red means. Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah, there you go. So it may just mean that at least that IRRRA 245 is clearly coming over as a non-retirement asset. So that might have just been something we did in our demos when we're spinning these things up and retesting them all the time. So, but yeah, you can see that clearly retirement assets in AssetMap are indicated as red. So qualified as red, non-qualified as green. That's your kind of on-off switch. But yeah, for the most part, we do see this mapping accurately. Again, Brian said that there's some edges, so we'll be looking at this. The first point here is to show you, I think, where the start of this is going, and I think it's going to get really interesting. I think it's
yeah, and I think that was just my data entry. I forgot to make that IRA a qualified account.
Got it. Thank you. Question from Leslie. I am a brand new user to SmartOffice. Can I use cases in AssetMap to do the initial SmartOffice setup? So can she send over AssetMap cases to populate SmartOffice?
Sort of. And I'm working on making this easier, but basically what you need to do is you need to put in the person's name and date of birth and a couple other key demographic points. And then if you synchronize, it'll pull everything from AssetMap over onto that contact.
Great. Thank you. Next up. Let's see. Adam got that one.
Well, we can re-ask some of the questions we answered because not everybody sees our answers.
That is true. There was one about target. I'm sorry, I'm just scrolling through here. Let me get to a bottom one. So if I'm following correctly, this is a similar integration as far as Salesforce to AssetMap. And, you know, I know there are definitely some differences as far as what is done in each, but certainly, you know, getting data sent from one place to another would be a similarity, but I wouldn't say they're exactly the same. Is there an integration to Pershing or Albridge that is available? I'm not sure if that's directed to AssetMap or SmartOffice, but Brian, do you guys have a Pershing or Albridge integration?
Yes. I would say Albridge is our most popular data feed. So if you're using Albridge wealth reporting services, you can set it up to feed all of the data right into SmartOffice, and you can even use it to seed your database. So if you're a new SmartOffice customer, you can have the Albridge data come in and it'll create all your clients for you. And then you got to clean them up because the registration data on those accounts aren't great, but it'll get you started. And we also have one directly with Pershing if you have something they call a Sterling account for data delivery. And that data actually brings in all the transactions even.
That's great. Question came in, how do we auto-load individual life insurance and group health policy info? Again, not directed to a certain company, but that is the question that came in.
It's a good question.
The best answer for that on the SmartOffice side is we have a new data feed service with the DTCC. And it gets a little complicated because it's really got to be authorized by the broker dealer to deliver that data to us. But you can get a lot of your in-force insurance policies through that channel over into SmartOffice. Other than that, we got to have a more detailed conversation about where your data is. Whether you're working directly with the carrier, you're working through a BGA, where you're working through the OSJ at your broker dealer, or you have some other access to the information. We have a variety of tools, but I don't have a simple pat answer for that.
Yeah, in AssetMap, we have released or made available a data loader so that you can actually load from Excel or CSV into AssetMap if you have data in that format. One of the things I think that's going to be interesting in the field is that many of us have integrations with differing partners. So whereas we have integrations with some portfolio companies that may not be present in SmartOffice, one of the interesting things about here is because there's a reconciliation, is that it's an effective way to move from one platform through to the next one. So for those of the advisors that have asked for all bridge integration with AssetMap, it's been kind of one of these pending projects forever. A great workaround if you have SmartOffice is basically just integrate SmartOffice and then push it to AssetMap. I did notice on one of the questions is this live? So in other words, does change in one system automatically update the other? And the answer is no. That's a manual process, and that's done so by design. There's been plenty of times when we delete data and we realize, oh, we cataloged it wrong. We don't want that overriding information in other systems that might be the source of truth. So whereas CRM and SmartOffice specifically might be collecting the probably most accurate data from sources, we want to make sure that that stays intentionally pure. Because as those people in AssetMap know, sometimes we tend to round up a lot because we want to have a high level conversation. We don't want to overwrite specific information. So hopefully that addresses that question.
Question from Bill. Once the link is set up, will AssetMap values change daily to match SmartOffice values, or would you have to update that?
Yeah, that's the point.
You have to update them.
You'd have to update. You'd have to send it from SmartOffice and say, send it back to AssetMap. That's the manual I'm talking about.
We don't want to assume.
That's true. That is true. Bill might assume, knowing Bill.
Very good. Does anybody else have any questions? Feel free to type them in. Oh, let me jump up to chat. So it looks like a couple folks are, from Chelsea. Can you mass update or is it household only? Adam.
So I'm sorry, say that again. I was reading a different
uploader. Can you mass, I think she means, can you mass up? Oh, well, it might not be for the uploader. Can you mass update SmartOffice to AssetMap, I believe she's saying, or is it household only?
It's at the household level only for now. I say for now.
Yeah. Let's get into some beta testing with people and find out if they really want that or not. We're a little, any automatic or kind of bulk overwriting of AssetMap data from SmartOffice, we're real nervous about throwing that in at the moment because you lovingly craft these maps with your clients and you don't want to step on stuff just because a data feed sets a little bit different.
Yeah, that is true. Thank you.
They are lovingly crafted. I agree.
Lovingly crafted.
I'm gonna steal that, Brian. Adam, what does KYC stand for?
I don't know. It just sounded good.
Know your client.
Know your client. Yeah, know your client. Know your acronyms. Know your client. I mean, big part of what many of us will deal with in the best interest advice, or if you're a fiduciary through an RIA, is this critical need to know your client. And systems like SmartOffice and AssetMap are real validation points to show that you have the historical archive of a collection of data and that you didn't just, promote a product and then say, see you in a couple of years, which we know clearly is not going to work. Not that it ever did, but it's just not going to be accepted. How about that? Without repercussion. So the key, I think, for many of these systems and why we're really interested in this is not the least of which is people don't want to have to, type something into two systems, right? We're always worried about redundancy and efficiency. But actually, it's the long game for most of these platforms, I think, is mostly ignored by many advisors. And let me tell you what I think that is. Number one is clearly if we don't collect data on our clients in a platform that has the ability to report that data, it's basically useless. Okay. And it's useless in the context of actually finding out what is the next best action that a client should take. They have their assets with you, they need insurance, they need this kind of insurance, time to change your insurance, they need to convert that insurance. Maybe they need to think about income certainty, they need to, so if you can bubble up the clients that need that attention now, that is really critical. But if you don't have the data to actually find out, it doesn't matter. That's useless to you. The second piece is on the defense of best interest advice. We think, and if you've been in the business long enough, you know that frivolous lawsuits come or prospective lawsuits, right? Somebody wronged you. And so they're going to decide to sue you because it's the cheapest and most effective way for them to feel better and make some money, especially for the attorneys. No offense to them. It's a business, and at the end of the day, they know how to attack, and there's a method for them to do so now, especially with the teeth of the best interest advice. And so the question is, do you have the defense of the prudent person track? And that really is only going to come with being able to provide on demand the reports that you did something over this period of time you were advising them. And I think the critical part for both of our platforms is thinking about what we need to do to think about for advisors down the line so that we've already contemplated their defense. We already have the archive, we have the SmartPad, we have the notes functionality, we have this integration, we have archival notes and reports in every presentation ever run. We can walk into that defense procedure with literally a packet of stuff that shows that we were actually present in this relationship. And so I think that's what you're going to see more and more. But as advisors, you really need to think about that yourself, because you got to set yourself up for success. So I'm excited to see how this is the first, I think, tenets of what is possible in our marketplace to make your lives easier.
Another question came in regards to AssetMap. Is there a tool to send or a way to send the map that you've reviewed with your client, or is it only within AssetMap when they meet with you?
The capacity to, well, AssetMap has the capacity to generate PDF reports, name them appropriately, and then you should be sending them through your either compliance-driven or firm experience way. In other words, send them through your email, which may have send secure, or if you send them through a portal, that's the way you should be sending them. AssetMap is not going to take over that very unique process to your firm. So what you typically do is you drag them right into your preferred communication method by sending them in PDF. Now, why is that critical? It's critical because we actually built in what you may not realize is unknown security layers. The AssetMap itself is a visualization, but if you have advanced screen scraping technology for text management, you can scrape a PDF and pretty much find that information. So we designed AssetMap in PDF form to be an image file, which means that it can't be scraped very easily at all. And that's important so that when you send information out from AssetMap, it comes out in a PDF, but that PDF is actually an image file. And that's important because we have held off on creating a consumer platform where the consumers can be their worst enemy and start messing up the map. And it's like saying, hey, here's an iPhone app where you can actually do an X-ray now. You don't need to go to the doctor, you just X-ray your arm when it's broken. Like, we know that that's not going to really result in the right treatment. So we want to keep the control for now at the advisor level to make sure that the diagnostics component is actually being handled there by you, the expert, so that you can see what needs to be fixed and filled.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see. So someone asked, when will a copy of the recording be sent? Giles, I know in the beginning of the session you had mentioned you would be able to send that out likely tomorrow. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Wonderful. That is great. So everyone will get a copy of that. And as I mentioned, also, Mel, if you have other questions, specific to either company, please feel free to let us know and we will get in touch with you. That seems to be all of I think we've covered just about every question. We can give it another second if anybody has closing remarks. That way, if anything else comes in, we can tackle it. But I think we're caught up.
It's perfect. We went to 50 minutes exactly, which is what I was hoping that we would do. I know everybody's been running like crazy with this new environment back to back. So we really appreciate your time from everybody here at AssetMap, and of course to the major effort that the EBIX team made on building this integration. We thank you. We look forward to finding ways to work with both of you in the future, Brian.
Looking forward to it as well, Adam. Thank you so much. And thanks, Chad, Giles, and Allison.
Thanks, everybody.
You.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.